Hi everyone, just wanted to go over a few last things for our week 8 ed puzzle. So last week in class we continued to review statistical tests and also took a look at the results section of a journal article or a study overall. So that was our work last week. I know and we'll see in the quiz questions things like t-tests and ANOVAs and paired t-tests and you you may think, gosh, when are these ever going to be helpful to me? Well, they'll be helpful in a lot of different ways. Number one, as a healthcare administrator, you'll look at research studies and being able to understand the results section and understand when one would use a t-test or when one would use various types of ANOVA or what p-value means or those types of things. Really important to know and understand that. Also important if you go on to graduate school, which we hope that you all do, depending on where where you complete your graduate study, you may be actually a researcher on some of these types of projects and needing to understand t-tests and ANOVAs and linear regression and all of those types of things. So really important, not only from an educational standpoint. So if you continue in your education moving forward, but also for the just for being able to understand a research article, and especially in this case, we're talking a quantitative article. Being able to understand what those tests mean and why they would choose one test over another, and those types of things. So important to have that basic understanding. So that was our work for last week. We had a written assignment. We had our quiz, which we'll talk about in a second, and some discussion. So in week 8, we're actually moving on to the discussion section of an article. So, that's going to be typically the last section that you'll see in an article, in a journal article or, a description of a study, or even in something like a thesis or a dissertation. That discussion section is going to appear at the end, and it's going to talk about, limitations of the study, things that were noted as important in the study. Where did the study go, and the researcher thought it was going that way? Where did it go outside of where they thought it was going? It's the time for the researcher to really kind of give their thoughts throughout the rest of an article or a dissertation or a thesis. Oftentimes, we're either restating other authors, so like in our lit review section, we're sharing what others have learned, or we're stating our methods and our definitive results. Whereas in the discussion section, it's really our opportunity to kind of give our opinion of what that data that you saw in the research or in the results section, what does that mean? Is there meaning? Those types of things. That's what you'll see in that discussion section of an article. So this week we have for assignments, we have our discussion. We also have an optional discussion. As you guys know, most of our courses do have the optional discussion to give us some information about what you liked about the course, what you didn't, etc. Those are important to us. We do review them. This is the first time I've ever taught this course, so it'll be very helpful to me, assuming I teach it again in the future, to be able to take some of the information that you guys have shared and apply that to future courses. This course was one that was developed and is typically taught by an adjunct, but I took it on this term. So it's really helpful if you can provide some insight there. Then obviously we have a quiz this week and in this ed puzzle. So let's go over the quiz questions from last week quickly. So let's go over this one. So which of the following is an observed test statistic? So the F ratio or F value is our correct answer here. The mean, the beta value, the p value, those are all data points. So not specifically a test statistic. Whereas the F ratio or the F test is a test statistic. It is through the one-way ANOVA. It is an actual calculated test statistic. So what is it? Well, the F value or F ratio is the ratio of the variance between things over the variance within things in your data set. So it measures that signal to noise ratio, variance between data points over the variance within data points. And so that's how it's calculated through your, looking at the data, etc. Um, the thing to keep in mind with things like the ANOVA and the t-tests and all of those types of statistical tests, these aren't the types of tests that we're sitting down and writing these out by hand. They do show the equations in the textbook and whatnot, but we typically use the software I typically use is SPSS, which is an IBM software. But you can use Excel to calculate some of these more simple test statistics, like ANOVAs and t-tests. So don't think that what's important is to understand the tests a little bit and understand what they are, what they measure. As a student researcher, the type of thing you'd be expected to know is not necessarily how to calculate that paired t-test or how to calculate that ANOVA, but you will be expected to understand what test you might want to use in what situation. As a student researcher, especially at the graduate level, doctoral level, you'll work with statisticians to help you calculate these things, but you still need to have an understanding. So our purpose right now is to have you understand what some of the tests are, so that when you're reading a journal article, you'll be knowledgeable of what's going on in that results section. So that is our F ratio is the variance between groups over the variance within groups. Next one. What is examined if there is a significant interaction found using factorial ANOVA? So the textbook talks about all the different ANOVA tests, different types of tests, and on page 162, it talks about the factorial ANOVA and and the difference between that and a one-way ANOVA is variables. So the factorial ANOVA will include more independent variables than the one-way ANOVA will. So down further in that section under the factorial ANOVA, it talks about there it is, the end of the first paragraph. It says, this interactive type of interpretation includes the assessment of simple main effects. So the simple main effects are what occur as a result of the interaction of these variables. So what is happening given the interaction of these covariates or independent variables, and that is what's known as the simple main effects. So if there's some sort of interaction found using this analysis, this test, it is demonstrating the simple main effects, or what is actually happening with the interaction between these different types of independent variables, which are also called covariates. Next one, tables should be labeled using Arabic numerals, not Roman numerals. So this is true, and this is talked about in chapter 13, where it talks about the use of tables. And this is actually an APA thing as well. So it's not just general research stuff, but actually APA. APA requires that if we put tables into our paper, our manuscript, whatever it happens to be, they're labeled sequentially throughout using regular numbers. Arabic numbers are 0 through 10, and beyond. 0 through 9, I guess, are the numbers. We use them in various combinations in order to create digits beyond 9. So we'll use Arabic numbers to label our tables. So when you see tables, like I have the book open still to that page with the factorial ANOVA, in there you can see table 12-3 because it's chapter 12. And it's the third table in chapter 12. So that's how you would label a table using Arabic numbers, not Roman numerals. So it wouldn't be table III, it would be table 3. And so that's just it's an APA thing, but it's also kind of a research thing as well. And you'll see that numbering, let's say for whatever reason, maybe you're going on to a non-healthcare program and you end up having to use, as a graduate student, and you end up having to use MLA or Chicago style or something else like that, different than APA, you'll still likely be using numbers, Arabic numbers to number your tables within a manuscript, not Roman numerals. I think that's it. Yeah. So that's all I've got for you this week. It's been a pleasure working with everybody again, as it always is, and this may very well be the last time I get to work with you guys. So if it is, congrats if you're graduating in the spring. I'll certainly see you around at events and whatnot. But I wish you the best. I appreciate your patience with me this term. I was just recording for my other class this morning as well, and said, unfortunately, the past 2 terms have been not great. So, so here's to hoping that our fall 2 term is good for me and you and everyone else. And remember that our assignments for this week are due on Friday. The weekends on Friday, and any 8-week classes for the second term that you're taking online will start on Saturday. So just be prepared for that. But like I said, it's been a pleasure. I'm happy to help you with anything as you continue to move forward toward graduation. Please feel free to reach out. And otherwise, I will see everyone around, and good luck in the next term. Thanks so much.